Hello friends, welcome to the lecture on marine pollution. In today's lecture, we will be talking about marine pollution. In today's lecture, we will be talking about marine pollution, the inputs and sources of marine pollution, effects of marine pollution, the possible ways to reduce marine pollution, the strategies for monitoring and management of oceans. Dear students, the ocean covers approximately 70% of the Earth's total surface area. In the entire water content of the Earth, 97% is present in the oceans. It harbors a rich source of biodiversity, which population may exceed in trillions. Oceans are the primarily regulatory agent of the Earth's climate. About 60% of the world's population live within 60 km of the coastal line and use the coastline for their livelihood. It was thought that human beings living only on the one-third of the globe's portion could not pollute this vast amount of water, as the marine ecosystems can serve as a sink for all the pollution caused by us. However, in reality, this is not true. We have come to realize that our waste, even in small quantities, has huge effects on ocean communities and species. Dear students, as per the UN definition, marine pollution is defined as the introduction of a man, directly or indirectly, of substances or energy to the marine environment, resulting in deleterious effects such as hazards to the human health, hindrance to marine activities, impairment of the quality of seawater for various uses, and reduction of amenities. It is now known, however, that some pollutants can significantly alter marine ecosystems and cause harm, sometimes deadly, to the species from the top to the bottom of the food web. Now, dear students, we will be talking about the major inputs of marine pollution. There are many ways to categorize and examine the inputs of a pollution into marine ecosystems. There are three main types of inputs of pollution into the ocean: direct discharge, pollutants enters rivers and the sea directly from the urban sewerage and in industrial waste discharge, sometimes in the form of hazardous and toxic waste or in the form of plastics. Inland mining for copper, gold, etc. is another source of marine pollution. Most of the pollution is simply soil, which ends up in rivers flowing to the sea. However, some minerals discharged into the course of the mining can cause problems, such as copper, a common industrial pollutant which can interfere with the life history and development of a coral polyps. Now, the land runoff. Surface runoff from the farming as well as urban runoff and runoff from the construction of roads, buildings, ports, channels and harbors can carry soil and particles laden with carbon, nitrogen, phosphorus and minerals. This nutrient-rich water can cause fleshy algae and phytoplankton to thrive in coastal areas known as algal blooms, which have the potential to create hypoxic conditions by using all available oxygen. Dear students, what is ship pollution? Ships can pollute waterways and oceans in many ways, including through their ballast, bilge and fuel tanks. Oil spills can have devastating effects. In addition to being toxic to marine life, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons found in crude oil are very difficult to clean up and last for years in the sediment and marine environment. Additionally, bilge pollution can be toxic to the surrounding environment when bulge water is released from a ship's bulge, oil spills are one of the most emotive of marine pollution events. However, while a tanker wreck may result in extensive newspaper headlines, much of the oil in the world's seas comes from other smaller sources such as tankers discharging ballast water from oil tanks used on return ships, leaking pipelines, or engine oil disposed of down sewers. Now, atmospheric pollution. Another pathway of pollution occurs through the atmosphere. The ocean has long been affected by the passage of chemicals from the atmosphere, that is nutrient source or the pH influence. Wind-bound dust and debris including plastic bags are blown seaward from the landfills and other areas. Dust from the Sahara moving around the southern periphery of the subtropical ridge moves into the Caribbean and Florida during the warm season as the ridge builds and moves northward through the subtropical Atlantic. Dust can also be attributed to a global transport from the Gobind to Kalmakan deserts across Korea, Japan and North Pacific to Hawaiian Islands. Dear students, deep sea mining. As with all mining operations, deep sea mining raises questions about the potential environmental damages to the surrounding areas. Because deep sea mining is a relatively new field, the complete consequences of a full-scale mining operations are under investigation. Some of the potential toxic metals include copper, zinc, cadmium, lead as well as rare earth elements such as lanthanum and yttrium. Following the release of toxins, there is an increase of noise, light, sediment-laden plumes and elements that have the potential to impact the ecosystems. Deep sea minerals can be extremely beneficial. It can cause wealth, raising living standards as well as economic opportunities for both current and future generations. In addition, if the wealth is poorly managed, it can have the potential to cause great economic and social damage. The instability of price and production levels of minerals can cause an extremely economic shock, leading to a significant backlash on the domestic economy. Now, dear students, we will be talking about the main sources of marine pollution. There are about 5 major sources of marine pollution, and of all the sources, the largest is from runoff and discharge on land masses. The smallest source is that related to offshore oil production. Oil pollution. It is mostly used to describe marine oil spills, where oil is released into the ocean or coastal waters. Oil spills are due to the following: crude oil from tankers, offshore platforms, drilling rigs and wells, spills of the refined petroleum products such as gasoline, diesel, spill of any oil, refuse or waste oil. The major contribution of about 62% is due to the industrial waste. Refineries and terminals contribute 1%, natural sources contribute 10%, tanker operation contributes 7%, tanker accidents contribute 3%, other shipping activities add 15%, and the offshore incidents contribute 2% of the total oil pollution. During war times, particularly during World War II, the amount of oil put into the sea through the sinking of ships was very large. In all of this discussion, we all must remember that we potentially play our own role by the unintentional yet nevertheless thoughtless disposal of old crankcase oil, which ultimately ends up going down storm drains which lead to the ocean. In addition to the petroleum products that end up in the storm drains, a lot of plastics also take this route. Plastics are often discarded from recreational vessels, offshore platforms, etc., and end up either accumulating on the beaches, in estuaries or salt marshes, or entangle marine animals that are attracted to the potential food items. Many of the goods traded internationally are shipped as containerized cargo. Severe storms at sea sometimes cause the loss of some containers. One recent case was shipment of tennis shoes in transit from Japan to the US. Dear students, in that incident, several containers were lost and at least one broke open. Now, we will be talking about heavy metal pollution. Heavy metal is a member of a loosely defined subset of elements that exhibit metallic properties. It mainly includes the transition metals, some metalloids, lanthanides, and actinides. There is an alternative term for heavy metal and is called as toxic metal. The major sources of metals are either natural or man-made sources. There are several heavy metals that cause concern when they are found in the marine environment, like the erosion of ore-bearing rocks. The natural sources of heavy metal pollution is due to atmospheric inputs by wind-blown dust, volcanic activity, forest fires, rain inputs into oceans, while the man-made sources are particularly due to the industrial discharge, sewage, resuspension of sediments by dredging and trenching. An example of mercury pollution in Minamata Bay, Japan. The source of mercury pollution was from the plastic plant that dumped mercuric chloride into the bay, and it was seen that the shellfishes were contaminated with the mercury, and people who consumed shellfish severely got affected. And it was reported that 43 people were dead and 700 were permanently disabled. The bay is still unusable for fishing and shell fishing. Now, the impacts of metal pollution by bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Dear students, bioaccumulation is an increase in the concentration of a substance or substances in any organism or a part of that organism. The affected organism has a higher concentration of the substance than the concentration in the organism's surrounding environment. It is also called bioamplification, that is, increase in the concentration of a substance in a food chain, but not in organisms. Now, the municipal sewage. The leading source of marine pollution is runoff and discharge from land. The largest discharge from the land is sewage, both industrial waste and sewage sludge. These waste products are either discharged by underwater pipes or dumped from the barges. The effects of marine pollution happen on different scales of time and space depending on the organisms involved and the extent of the pollution. Dear students, thermal pollution or the changing of the temperature of a seas or oceans and can be caused by cooling water from power plants and industrial sites. Now, we will be talking about shipping related threats to the marine environment. A wide range of different substances may pollute the marine environment. Many of these pollutants are released by vessels either operationally or accidentally. What is operational pollution? Operational pollution denotes the phenomenon that vessel source marine pollution is not confined to accidents. In fact, the majority of the pollutants are released while the ship is on the voyage rather than accidentally. In this respect, activities include the chronic discharge of sewage, tank residues, bunker oils and garbage, as well as exchange of ballast water, emissions from vessels, engines and pollution due to anti-fouling paints on ship hulls. The discharge of solid debris, that is disused packaging, is an even more serious concern particularly in the coastal areas of developing countries. While the majority of sources, that 60 to 80% are land based, the main offshore sources are fishing vessels and cruise ships. A large number of species is known to be seriously harmed and killed by plastic debris. Marine animals are mostly affected through entanglement in and ingestion of plastic litter. Now, dear students, we will be talking about accidental pollution. Polluting substances are released accidentally due to the collisions, contacts with external objects, groundings, explosions, cargo transfer failures, sinking or loss of cargo. Ships often carry large quantities of cargo that is toxic or otherwise hazardous. The most evident examples are oil tankers, which, if involved in an accident, may spill the thousands of tons of crude oil. Yet, oil is just one type of cargo that is dangerous for the marine environment. Dear students, International Maritime Organization (IMO), in its efforts to enhance the safety of marine transport, has listed about 800 pollutants in Part 3 of the International Maritime Dangerous Goods (IMDG) code. The adverse effects of the accidental spillage of these substances range from mere reduction of amenities to severe hazards to human health and deterioration of marine habits. The polluting effects of oil in the marine environment will be described in the next section. Effects of marine pollution. The effects of marine pollution are very diverse. This is because the forms of marine pollution are very diverse. Organic matter. Organisms that were alive but are not anymore when in the sea or ocean causes a drop in dissolved oxygen can lead to the death of marine animals. These algal blooms can also release toxins that can kill fish and poison people. Human waste from sewage work, because of its fertilizing properties in plants, can cause algal blooms. Not only do these blooms cause discoloration of water, which looks horrible, it also can clog fish gills or even be toxic. The breakdown of the algae also causes the drop of oxygen, as talked earlier. Now, the ecological impacts of accident oil spillage are distinct and most critical. Typically, spilled oil separates over the surface of the water, forming a thin film. Since large spillage in the ocean or the open ocean will often just burn off or disappear without detectable impact, tanker accidents are most disaster close to the land. The oil coats marine mammals and birds at sea as well as the shallow subtidal and intertidal ecosystems close to the shore. Once the oil has drifted ashore, it poses a great danger to highly vulnerable ecosystems such as fixed vegetation, estuaries and oyster and mussel beds. Dear students, the areas affected by spill may suffer from it for many years. Even when they appear to have completely recovered, if enough oil penetrates the sediments, hydrocarbons alter the long-ranging trends of community structure, particularly with respect to the microalgae and worms. The toxic chemicals in the oil can cause physiological damage, which can include changes of behavior. It can also damage the reproductive systems, which has an effect on the population of a species. It is also an eyesore and tar balls created on beaches and are very difficult to clean up. Human waste gets into water via many ways, can increase the concentration of pathogenic microorganisms or germs in that part of the sea. Dear students, filter feeding biscupid marine animals like mussels, Clams and oysters concentrate pathogens in their gut, so eating these animals from polluted waters has a health risk. The discharge of the sewage is a ubiquitous problem and many cause severe bacteriological pollution, harming local fisheries and aquaculture, and in some areas leading to an excess of nutrients. Sediments from the mining, forestry and farming cause the water to become cloudy. This can harm photosynthesis underwater. It can also bury marine habitats, which can kill fish and other marine species such as coral. Dear students, pesticides like DDT and other chemicals run into rivers and through the food chain build up in large quantities in marine mammals and birds and cause them to have reproductive failure, which causes a decline in the number of these marine mammals and birds. Chemicals which are painted onto the side of boats to prevent growth of marine organisms often seep into the sea. These pollutants can affect animal life, especially in places of high traffic like harbors and marinas. Alien species, animals that are not native to the place they are in, compete with the native species for food resources, etc., can kill off native species and reduce biological diversity. To add to all this, these species can introduce new marine diseases. One of the most dangerous pollutants to marine life is plastics. Items like plastic bottles and bags kill marine animals due to choking and suffocation as they eat them, thinking that they are food. Other animals are also killed by getting tangled in plastic items. Other miscellaneous items littered into the sea also can harm marine life. For instance, discarded fishing nets continue to catch fish and so kill fish that are not even going to be consumed. The plastic debris on the beaches can last even up to the 400 years. Dear students, radioactive substances also pollute underwater. These substances can enter food chain and cause disease in marine life. Thermal pollution can kill temperature sensitive marine species such as coral. It can also confuse and displace marine animals. Now, dear students, we will be talking about the physical damage to marine environment. Even without causing pollution of the marine environment, ships can harm oceanic habitats and wildlife by direct physical impact. Physical impacts on the habitats are caused by anchors and grounding of ships. Coral reefs are particularly at risk from groundings or anchoring. With respect to the latter, damage is caused either by the direct impact of anchors or from the dragging and swinging of large anchor cables and chains. Friends, there are a number of ways by which we can reduce marine pollution, like organize the beach cleanup, reduce your rubbish, make sure only rain goes down the drain, take care of local stream. Now, dear students, we will be talking about management and monitoring of marine pollution. There are also the number of ways by which we can manage and accordingly monitor the marine pollution. First, advances in science and technology are needed for the management of contaminated sediments. Second, monitoring is key to fighting nutrient pollution. Third, cleanup strategies require careful study. 4. Role of National Institute of Ocean Technology in marine pollution monitoring have to play active role. Now, the global goals. Dear students, in 2017, the United Nations adopted a resolution establishing sustainable development goals, including reduced marine pollution as a measured goal under Goal 14. The international community has agreed that reducing pollution in the oceans is a priority, which is tracked as a part of Sustainable Development Goal 14 that actively seeks to undo these human impacts on the oceans. The title of the target 14.1 is by 2025 prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution of all kinds, in particular from land-based activities, including marine debris and nutrient pollution. Dear students, in conclusion, we can say that ocean pollution is a diffuse complex series of problems that are not easily addressed. Nevertheless, some pollution problems can and have been successfully addressed. Because of the value of science in dealing with pollution, there is a need to devote resources to research, improved monitoring and continued development of pollution, source reduction strategies and technologies. Efforts will be made more effective when actions at all government, federal, state and local levels are better coordinated and communicated to the public about pollution sources and impacts are improved. With this, we conclude today's topic, that was marine pollution. Hope you have understood well. Thank you.